Hi, and welcome to Bespoke Architects Daily Pinup. I'm Nicole Walters, Director of Bespoke Architects, and I'm about to show you what inspiring images made our Pinterest board today. There were quite a few local projects that really caught my eye today, and it was for their use of materials predominantly and some of their quirkier design details. So let's jump straight in. This first little project up here in this corner, it was the really minimalist kitchen. You can see they've gone for a two-tone sort of grey off-white colour palette. It's really simple. There is no door furniture except for this here, which could be the fridge. And then we can see that the island bench is really minimalist. It's really fine, thin panels of sort of light grey material. And then we can see that same sort of pocket over here amongst all the built-in joinery on the back wall of this kitchen. So it's a really nice balance, I find, in that kitchen. So that's why that board, Pin has made the board today. Moving on to this project here, it was the way that they've put these little sort of wing dividers between the windows, almost like a little small screen, that I really liked. So that's why that image is on the board, as well as their use of materials. The red brick and the monument colour always go really well together. And then the interior of that project, we can see similar colour palette. We're seeing the sort of form ply joinery with that ply edge exposed, and then these really dark panels. The really nice, it's very elegant and simple. The way this kitchen is done, there is no splashback. We've just got the raw concrete wall. Then we've got a balance of closed and open shelving above, and then this sort of raw concrete, beautiful burnished floor, and then the concrete bench tops with the freestanding cooker on the back wall there. It's very, very elegant. The bathroom for that project, now the reason I pinned it is I've mentioned this before, dark colours really suck the light out of the room. This photo's been done without the lights turned on. We can see this patch of light here on the vanity, which is coming through the door. So we're getting some secondhand light from the room behind us. There must be no other natural light in this room. And it is, when we're outside of that door range, it is a really quite a dark bathroom. I have made this mistake in my own house. I have a black bathroom, which I love for relaxation, but in terms of being able to do just general maintenance, even being able to see yourself clearly in a mirror is difficult without really great lighting in such a dark bathroom. That said, love the colour palette. So just be mindful of that sort of factor in having a really dark bathroom, and that's why that pin is on the board more as a discussion point, I guess, and then how you work with a colour palette that's so dark in a room where you do need to be able to do some level of maintenance and makeup perhaps. The next one is the stair. I pinned that just because that's a really interesting way to divide the two rises on this stair with this solid wall, but rather than raking the top of the wall, which is something I've done in the past, they've actually stepped it, which is quite interesting. And then it's got this sort of plaster with this timber inlay, which I quite like. So it was just something a bit quirky and a bit different. So that's up on our stair board today. This kitchen, there is another image of this kitchen over here. It's quite a vibrant colour palette, so not everybody is going to be attracted to the colour palette. I quite like the material palette. I've put it on the materials board, and I really like the shape of this island bench. It's asymmetrical in design. It does have some open storage to the dining room. The layout of the kitchen works really well, so that's why it's on the board. This image here is, we've got the integrated sink into that Korean bench top or reconstituted stone bench top, and we can see the grooves there for drainage. So that's why that is on the board. I have mentioned it before, and I'll mention it again, the importance of having really great task lighting above that work area. I don't know whether these with a solid shroud are going to give you enough light at night, or whether they're going to actually give you circles of light on the bench, which could be quite annoying. So just something to keep in mind there. I think that was the only two pins from that house. Yes, it was. Now this little property, I pinned this because I just really liked the shape. For no apparent reason, they've decided to go up, possibly for view. When I say no apparent reason, I mean with the landscaping. So there's no slope on this site. There's no ground floor function that they're cantilevering over. They've merely lifted a section of the house, and we can see the shape of the stairs in the solid material, and then it's sort of translucent with those tall piers underneath. and these beautiful windows are broken into the material. So I really liked that. That's why it's on the board. We've got an inside shot of that same dwelling there. What I really like is the window combination. So none of those 3 panels are the same width or the same height, because we've got this angled ceiling, at least internally. And then the choice to run the timber support panels sort of in line with the window mullions is really interesting. But it does work. I feel like it really works. So that's why that's on the board. And then this is a detailed shot of that. And we can see that those timber columns that they're using to support that roof load are actually connected to the floor structure below by a steel plate. And we can see the bolts there where the steel plate goes inside the timber. The timber's like a sleeve over top, and then it's bolted through. So it's quite an interesting little detail there. How you go cleaning around that, I can't say, but it is an interesting detail, and I quite like how this downpipe just extends beyond the floor line and then just into nothingness. It just falls to the ground. So that was something a little bit different as well. That's why it's on the board. I pinned this translucent panel just because I thought that was a really great solution for a lot of garaging, particularly in inner urban areas where we don't have that much yard space and we are trying to get a lot of function in there. One way to potentially allow light into the garage and soften the garage within the landscaping itself might be to do these translucent panels. So that is up on the material board. This project here, which is this one over here, I just really liked that form. It's not particularly high. We've got a repetition of form here. We can see the small pod, a linking passageway back there, and then the bigger pod, we can assume they've got different function in them. So that was pinned for the form. Then we're inside that link now, and we can see the glass either side, which I really like. It is a fixed panel though either side, so we're not going to get any benefit from any airflow through that passage, which is something you may want to consider if you're considering a linkage like that between 2 pods. But I quite liked that, and the amount of light it lets into that passage is really lovely. And then again, just the alfresco area, which is part of this bigger pod over here, and we can see it's got the solid roof, but then it's open at each end, which is really lovely. And then this glass wall dividing the inner function and the outer function, but it's all happening in that long elongated sort of floor panel. So I really liked that. This little laneway house I pinned for their use of an operable corner. We have done that on several of our projects, both externally and internally. It's a great way to make a room feel a lot bigger than it is by allowing the corner to open completely. This one is done by bifold doors, which also means you don't have to open it all at once. You can just open 1 leaf or a couple of leaves. You know, you've got a little bit of control as to how much you're opening. The one thing I will say to keep in mind in this kind of scenario is then how do you keep bugs out if that's an issue for you? If you're not one who's comfortable with being one with nature. I know here locally in Geelong for a long time I didn't do fly screens as such, and in summertime in particular, if I wanted to sleep with the doors open, I was a little bit concerned about wildlife just wandering into the house at night. So I did actually invest in some fly screens eventually, and mine are on French doors and are like a roller blind type, so come from the top. But in a situation like this, the only option you would have is concertinaed type or roller type fly screens that were back in line with where these bifolds fold back to. So there is an option for that. It's just something to keep in mind, and it does get rather expensive when you're getting up to a corner like that. I pinned this tap because I found it extraordinary. This is the image I saw this morning. So we can see the gooseneck part of it there, and then we see the flat plate and the water coming out of it. I was intrigued to find out what the function was. It would have, looking at the video, that if you click on this link, click on this image, it'll take you to the website where I was today and having a look. This here is for your general dishwashing and vegetable washing. And then this little tap, and it's flexible and it does come off that flat bracket. The flat bracket itself is really clever. It's integrated chilled water, boiling water, and sparkling water, which is something that we see and add a lot into our high-end homes, where we've got in our kitchen, we've got 2 taps essentially to form what now is a 1-tap function, where we've got our tap for general dishwashing and day-to-day use, and then we have this other specialty tap Over here, it's either a zip or a billy. And this company has just brought out an all-in-one. So that is really interesting to see. And I really thought it was quite a beautiful chap to look at. So that's why it's made the board. This little project here, our last one for today, what caught my eye was that sort of monolithic use of material, the little interplay of all these different little skillions together, and then the way that the openings have penetrated the facade. I thought that was really nice. This is it from one angle, and this is it from another angle, and we can see that the upper level up here sort of cantilevers out, which I thought was really nice. So this particular image is very heavy looking, but the glass adds a little bit of relief. And in this one, it's very lightweight looking, and the concrete is just framing the huge expanses of glass. We can see the structural columns happening within that glass line. So that was all the inspiring images from around the web today. As mentioned on our more recent videos, Bespoke House for the Golf Course House, I am finally loading the images up to Pinterest. So if you are looking for more design inspiration, please check out that property. Thanks so much for joining me. I look forward to catching you all next week. Thanks. Bye.